Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Simplify Estate Planning by Integrating Addepar with Vanilla. My name is Jennifer Brooks, and I lead product marketing at Vanilla. And we're so excited today to be here with the Addepar team talking about our new partnership and integration. So to introduce a few housekeeping items before we get started, we have a Q&A in the chat. Please ask your questions at any time. We'll try to get to all the questions. If we can't get to the questions and you leave your name, someone will follow up with you following the webinar. So let me introduce our speakers today. We have Blake Rose, who is the Senior Partnerships and Strategic Alliances Manager at Adapar, and Michael Schwerer, the Director of Business Development at Vanilla. So we wanted to do something fun before we got into all the content. So if you can use our chat and put in your hometown and one fun fact about it. And we're going to do it on our end too. So Blake, why don't you get us started?
Thanks, Jennifer. Really excited to be here. Michael, nice to see you again. So I am from Dayton, Ohio, and the Wright brothers grew up a few blocks down the street from me. So that's one thing. Dayton, Ohio, and the Wright brothers is an interesting fact about that.
Awesome. Yeah, Blake, good to see you too. And thanks everyone for joining. I'm from a small town in Wisconsin called Sheboygan, and we are known for being the birthplace of the brat. And so if anyone is familiar with grilling bratwurst during the summer, you can thank some of the founders of the Sheboygan, Wisconsin area.
There you go. Yeah, feel free to drop in the chat where you guys are located. Always curious to see who's on the line here. We've got a diverse group today. Awesome. Well, in terms of today's session, Michael, I want to flip it over to you to kick us off in terms of the agenda. It looks like we've got a pretty diverse group here, and I know that they're excited to hear about the integration. So you want to kick us off in the agenda?
Absolutely. I would love to. And thank you, Jennifer and Blake, for the intro. And welcome, everyone. We really appreciate you spending a few moments of your day with us today. So the topic of today's conversation is how to simplify estate planning by integrating Addepar and Vanilla. And as we'll explore in more detail in today's session, the two fundamental data sets for what Vanilla is calling a total wealth advisor are one, the estate plan data, which of course is what Vanilla helps you organize and analyze. And the second is the holistic balance sheet of the family, which mostly resides in Addepar today. So, the ability for us to integrate together Vanilla to tap into all the great work that Addepar does for their clients in account aggregation and verification, the result is a super accurate, transparent, and efficient way to stay up to date on all of your clients' total wealth plans. Now, we'll break down each of these separate pieces today with an overview of both Addepar and then Vanilla. And then after that, we'll put the pieces together and demonstrate the integration of the two systems and how this results in actionable insights for you and your clients. So with that, I'll hand it off to Blake to tell us more about Addepar's platform. Blake, off to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. We're going to get into a little bit of the high-level overview of Addepar. Many of you are likely Addepar users already. Some of you are net new. So we're going to kind of keep it high level here. And if there's interest in going in more depth, obviously, feel free to reach out to us. But we just want to frame why we're here and really the birth of the partnership, right? So there is a big disconnect between, being a fiduciary and serving a client and the amount of time that actually takes to structure information to perform that task, right? So we've noticed that there are a variety of disparate data, sources that come together to ultimately, provide advice to a client. And this information is scattered across multiple custody banks, fund administrators, and various other sources. And so Addepar really has been, for the last 12 or 13 years, trying to create a nucleus or a source of truth for that data and structuring it in a unique format so that we can then power other applications like Vanilla, right? So when you go to run an estate plan, it's very important to know what's in the estate. And Vanilla can iterate and move much faster if they're able to ingest that information in one place and not have to go build the tentacles and the pipes to actually build upon that, right? They can just take it all from one structured format, which allows them to create a variety of features that help you manage the estate of your client. And so I think fintech evolves faster. Being able to communicate with clients on the fly, there's a lot going on in the market, given the volatility and the interest rate environment. being able to proactively communicate to those clients when they ask questions, when they call you and they say, I want to come in from a meeting in the next hour, I want you to prepare all of my fixed income exposure and tell me what I own in Europe, right? Within Addepar, which we'll kind of walk through in the demo, you can do that in 30 seconds or less. You don't have to use spreadsheets, pull data down manually, and waste a lot of time. And a lot of these systems have been built 20 and 30 years ago, and they worked really well when there was just stocks and bonds in the picture. We're in a different world, right? I think we've heard a lot from various conferences, the death of the 60-40. Alternatives are here. We believe at Addepar they're here to stay and expand significantly. And having a performance reporting tool that accounts for them correctly and helps you scale your business is something that we're very focused on here. So we'll get into that. Along that journey, Adapar has evolved to a multi-product solution. So the firm originally started as a data aggregation analytics reporting tool. I think most are familiar with that. That includes fee billing and dashboarding. So think of Advisor Workstation. But we've evolved significantly. We've made 2 acquisitions actually from our partner ecosystem in the last couple of years. One of them was called Advisor Peak, which we're now rebranded to Adapar Trading. So really excited about this. We won't go in depth on that today, but it's important to note that Adapar kind of started in the family office space, solving that consolidated reporting experience, but has evolved significantly to work with other firms like RIAs, private banks, institutions, et cetera, that have various use cases, right? So advisors needed trading. Some of these institutions and family offices really need to be able to project cash flows out, create pacing models, understand liquidity requirements. And then we have a marketplace as well, which serves as a central source of truth to be able to transact into different alternative specific investments. And so this is the kind of stack. To get a little bit more into the business updates, we are serving RIAs, multifamily offices, single family offices, private banks, and institutions. So these 4 verticals are kind of listed in the top right. And to put this in scope, there's over $4 trillion in aggregate assets on the system, over 900 clients. One thing that I'm very proud of is that represents 40 different countries. So international expansion has been very top of mind. We've stood up offices in India and Scotland and London within the last 12 months. So that's been greatly exciting. And we have over 100,000 active users. Just to kind of deconstruct, Adapar, I think there is an opportunity to just frame the system a little bit in more depth, specifically as it relates to the multi-product ecosystem and how we think about partnership. So I referenced this before, but disparate data was the issue that core Addepar started to solve 12 years ago, pulling in that information. So if you just start at the bottom of this visual with me, there's a data network, and that's the lifeblood of the Addepar business. So this connects to custody banks, to security reference and market data connections, and the ability to pull that all in one place and then push it up the stack, if you would, right? So there's a proprietary data platform allowing Addepar to do things like ownership structure, which we know multifamily offices care about, owning assets through trusts and other vehicles instead of just in accounts, and the ability to kind of model that in what we call a financial graph, which Addepar has a patent for, but then calculate performance, right? Internal rate of return, time rate of return, all of these metrics are able to be captured and reported in Addepar and then pushed upstream into the various apps. So there's the analytics or the advisor dashboard, there's billing, there's the rebalancer. I won't bore you with all of them, but you'll see one at the bottom or at the top right, which is the integration center. Because Addepar powers many more products than the ones that are under the roof, if you would. We have a robust ecosystem and connectivity, pulling in all that data in one place and being able to power other fintech providers like Vanilla, which we're super excited about because they're able to really take that consolidated data and then build layers or functionality on top of it to serve their clients, like generating estate plans, which historically takes a long time to do. Now we have 2 best of breed vendors coming together to really help you with your clients. And so this is a quick look at the integration ecosystem. This is obviously not everybody, but hopefully this should shed some light on the various categories, which we consider more foundational. Thus, advisors need them day to day to run their business. And you'll see Vanilla here front and center, which sits in a planning category alongside others. But we're really excited about Vanilla because they're hyper, focused on estate planning, given some of the changes that are going to be taking place in the next couple of years. Our clients have been asking a lot about this. We're really happy to see another best of breed vendor come in and build technology for it, ultimately to help our clients serve their clients. So they're listed in our integration center. If you go there, they're actually on the front page. That's integrations.adapar.com. We have over 100 vendors there. And so if you're looking at the ecosystem, you can explore that. And just quickly here, I had mentioned this, so actually just to go back for a second, we sometimes make acquisitions from this ecosystem. And so I had referenced these two firms already, but Addepar Navigator is one of them we're really excited about. This is a quick visual representation, so we're not going to demo this functionality, but just want to let you know it exists. So if you're a family office or multifamily office and having difficulty with pacing cash flows or understanding, projections, feel free to reach out. We're happy to chat with you more about this. Previously, this firm was called Real Capital Innovation, or RCI, so it's been rebranded as Addepar Navigator. And then there's the Addepar Trading and Rebalancing. So the ability to trade, have fixed connectivity to a variety of institutions, be very tax efficient in cash management and route orders. This is all native within the Adapar stack as well. So that concludes the segment on the 30,000-foot overview of Adapar. I know we covered a lot, but wanted to hand it to Michael to talk a little bit about Vanilla's business origin, and then from there we'll go into the integration and take some questions. So Michael, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Blake, for that overview. That's great. So for those on the call that may not be as familiar with Vanilla, what I'm going to do today is just provide a quick high-level overview of our company, the mission we're on, and the persistent problems we've identified and have set off to solve for. So as we can see here, Vanilla's mission is to build the complete platform for modern estate planning. And while the term estate planning has been around for centuries, I think it's fair to say that it hasn't evolved much. Certainly there are new strategies that pop up here and there to be more tax efficient, but in general, the end user experience is riddled with a mix of confusion and frustration, resulting in huge stacks of paper that ultimately get thrown into a file cabinet for the next few decades. And so really, at the heart of what we're doing, we believe that wealth advisors can and should play a pivotal role in creating transparency and comfort in a client's estate plan, which is really what we're on a mission to make possible. Next slide, Blake, please. There's a lot of statistics out there. The one we're probably all most familiar with is the great wealth transfer that's set to occur over the next few, years in a decade. But here's one that I think is actually almost more important, specifically as we talk to more wealth advisors. A study was done by Spectrum recently that found that 93%, almost all, clients expect to receive estate planning advice from their advisors. This, of course, proves out our hypothesis that this offering is in high demand. However, if we go to the next slide, we see that only 22% of the respondents reported actually getting this type of advice in a satisfactory way from their advisors. So this 71% gap is what we're calling the estate advisory gap. And this is ultimately the exact problem that we're attacking. By bringing expertise and beautiful design to advisors so that they can close this gap and give their clients the answers and insights that they're looking for. So after we see this and we realize the problem here, I think the next logical question, of course, is, how are we doing this? Next slide, Blake. So with the creation of Vanilla's estate advisory platform, what we're doing is we're arming wealth advisors with the tools and visuals to take that stack of complex paper and create flowcharts and diagrams that bring their clients' estate plans to life. In particular, we're seeing that our platform helps advisors not only connect with their clients in a new, innovative way, which of course allows them to have a deeper understanding of their clients, but also that advisors are using this platform to grow their business and to win new assets and new clients. In addition, of course, to being able to expand their existing relationships and retain key clients, getting tapped into the second and third generation of families in ways that they haven't been able to in the past. Especially once a wealth transfer event ultimately happens, they now have the insights to actually prepare for that event versus having to scramble and figure things out on the fly. Next slide, please, Blake. Thank you. So in summary, our platform's key functionality really falls into four main pillars, which helps our product and development teams stay laser focused in helping advisors better organize, visualize, strategize, and then execute on their clients' estate plans. Up until today, we have built out a platform, that mainly focuses on the organize and visualize aspects. And as this year goes on, what we'll be doing is unveiling some really exciting new product enhancements focused on the strategy and execution features. Next slide. So now that we've set the table on both, Addepar and Vanilla separately, let's discover the benefits of integrating both systems together. First, what I would say the integration does is it really creates a more comprehensive picture of your client's estate. So due to Addepar's aggregation and normalization offerings, an advisor can then, of course, use that data both inside of Addepar, as Blake mentioned, to do more analysis and report on portfolios. But because that data has all been normalized, they can also send it out to third parties, such as Vanilla, where having that knowledge of the full balance sheet is used to run simulations on wealth transfer implications, which we'll get into in just a second when we demonstrate this integration. I would say the second big aspect and benefit of this integration is that it updates each morning. And so I think it gives advisors the ability to rest more assured that this isn't a conversation that they'll revisit each decade, but before things happen, but that actually staying on top of it and running these simulations and visualizations each day, knowing that they'll be accurate, up to date for their clients. And then lastly, I would say the third bullet point of the benefits of the integration is that it helps speed up the pace of client onboarding, definitely within the Vanilla system. I think this is a really critical feature that many times lives behind the scenes and isn't as forward-facing as a few other things regarding integrations with clients. But what this allows for is users, our advisors, to ultimately get much quicker time to value through this integration versus having to upload assets, liabilities, and accounts manually into our platform. Certainly doable, but to the extent that we want to start delivering advisor value quicker, this integration allows for an enormous enhancement. So that said, and with those benefits in mind, let's take a quick look at a demo of the integration. We'll be both in Addepar and then in Vanilla, being able to see this integration at work. So Blake, back to you to start this data journey in Addepar.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. So let's jump into the Addepar side of the house first. This is a fictitious, multifamily office RIA environment that I have here. So Blake Capital Partners. And I guess just before I do this, I want to frame two things. So I had a chance to go to the Wealth Stack conference this week, spoke with a lot of RIAs. I think two key trends I want to share. The first is if that estate planning minimum, if that the generation, gifting tax changes, a whole lot more advisors are going to be looking for an estate solution, I think. So it becomes more and more relevant. So having this proactive conversation with Vanilla now, you might not necessarily feel like it's 100% applicable to 100% of your client base today. That might change in the very near future. So I think this is, from a timing perspective, very relevant. The other thing that I'd just like to mention is that Michael Kitces gave a speech on, profitability and how these firms, RIAs specifically, are scaling. And they, you get to a point where once you have so many clients, servicing them is really the gap for growth, right? And I would argue that if you're using a system that requires a lot of swivel chair or manual data entry, that service function to, represent and maintain your existing book of business just takes more and more hours. So the more that you can put technology at those issues, frees up more time to actually go generate cash flow by bringing on new clients. So just on the cusp of some of those trends from Wealth Stack last week, I wanted to share that because I think this is a pretty opportune time for this integration to be incepting. And we'll walk through what this means today and kind of the technical details of how a user might be in Addepar and how seamless that experience is taking that data over to Vanilla. So like I said, I've got a fictitious multifamily office environment here. I've got Pebble Beach in the background just because I'm a big golfer, but advisors use Addepar to create their own branding and imaging. So if you're a firm that has your own assets, you'd be able to push this here, and it's all white labeled. Addepar uses Amazon Web Services. And I'll really show you three things today when I log in. So I call this the advisor desktop. Just make this a little bit larger in terms of sizing. I'm going to pretend to be an advisor day in the life here. And when I log into the application, we'll really be spending time within three components of the Addepar app. So this is the advisor desktop or workstation, which we call the analysis view. Then we've got, the ability to generate custom PDF reports, either ad hoc or automated quarterly, and we'll kind of get into a little bit of that. Finally, when the client logs in, they would also hit this branded portal, except they're seeing a much different set of items. Instead of seeing all of their clients, right, you're seeing just your information if you're the end recipient of this. And we'll kind of talk a little bit about this client portal experience. So we'll work through this left to right. So back to the Addepar, advisory desktop. When I'm logging in here in terms of quick orientation, on the left-hand side, these portfolios will flow into the app based on all of your clients, right? So if I run this RIA, I might have a couple hundred clients here. I've created a segmentation and kind of business overview dashboard that if I was running this firm, it'd be interesting if I, logged in and I can kind of see production across different teams or different offices and really summarize the big picture of my firm's production in one place. So in this case, this is, a $3.8 billion RIA looking at the full book of business, but we'll really center this workflow on Adam Smith. So he's going to be the fictitious client that I'm picking on today. And then I've really set up 3 views to walk through. Within Addepar, you can have different, what we call dashboards or views. These can be things like performance by manager, very specific looks at a specific asset class like fixed income, alternative investments, and kind of the show goes on, but they can be categorized and labeled. I've really focused on 3 just to kind of kick off the conversation. And we'll start off with the basic view, right? So if I'm looking at Adam Smith's portfolio, first thing I see here is that this is a multi-asset class, portfolio, and I can start to slice and dice this information. So just to give you a 30,000-foot overview for those not familiar with Addepar, we're going to ingest data from a variety of sources. These can be custody banks, alternative assets. And if you really wanted to kind of drill into this, right, I could see underneath the equity what all positions are held. Advisors have the ability to run their own classification schemes. So if I were to double click on Disney as an example, and I wanted to move this around and say this really belongs in a different sector or geography, right? Addepar gives advisors the ability to tell that unique story. So we won't get into all the details now, but quickly, I'm just going to show you how I could start to build a performance dashboard. So instead of grouping this by asset class, I'd actually like to see, where these assets are held. So I'm going to pull in the custodian, drag this up to the top, and then start to add performance metrics. So we have the ability to compute this, manually. You can say, I would like to look at performance over any time period. So we'll kind of keep it simple and maybe we'll just say the relative 1 year, but you can do very custom calculations here and determine if you'd like to include accrued interest, or we can even do multiple currencies here as well, but we'll keep it simple. Also pull in an internal rate of return for those private investments. You can add any benchmarks you want as well. This is the S&P, but we have hundreds, if not thousands, of benchmarks that you could also append and actually create blended benchmarks also. So once again, I'm the advisor, day in the life, starting to run performance for Adam's portfolio. You can see quickly that I shifted this from an asset class view to a custodian view. And now I'm able to start to see the breakdown of all of the institutions that my client Adam has assets at and the performance, right? So if I were to click into Schwab, you can see that this is broken down then by asset class. Inside asset class, we have the position and we compute performance at the lowest level and roll it all the way back up. The final thing is that there are visualizations that match the data table. And so the ability to kind of customize this also to do some analysis is very easy, right? I'm looking at asset class twice. That's a bit redundant. So if I wanted to actually change this to a donut chart, and instead of grouping it by asset class, maybe it's more applicable to see it by geography, given what's going on in the world, I can quickly do that, run, and then you'll notice that the data table on the left is interacting with the charts on the right. So if I were to say, what do I just have at Schwab and Pershing, click run, these charts are going to update dynamically. And so this is my exposure. So that gives you a little bit of a feel for how the day-to-day workflows can be covered within the Addepar advisor desktop station. We're going to talk a little bit about other dashboards here. We're very known for being able to report on alternative investments, and that's principally because of the data model. So Addepar has the ability to track alternatives in a really intuitive way. Here are some pre-built charts and views of, this is kind of the end result, but the ability to track every different leg of a private equity distribution and calculate and performance the way that you might want to communicate it to clients. This is the summary of that. So looking at performance by vintage year and multiples of capital. But once again, the system can handle alternatives very well. We won't go into all of the depth, but being able to create custom attributes. One story I like to tell is was working with the family office, and they said, we'd love to see DPI, or distributions to paid in capital. We didn't have that as an out-of-the-box metric, but we can go in on the back end and create something called a custom attribute. So you can take any field, divide it, multiply it, do any sort of math, and we were able to simply put in that distributions to paid in capital, throw it right here in this column, and start to graph it as well and communicate it out to clients. So the final thing that I'd mention is how easy this data flows over to vanilla. So I've got my vanilla integration view set up, and I believe that this is somewhat representative of how the data starts to get, pushed into vanilla. Advisors have the ability to customize this, but really the benefit of the Addepar API is you don't have to build the view within Addepar, because the vanilla engineering team has leveraged our query API, which essentially allows you to build these visualizations within Addepar. But then you'll see here, there's kind of two sets of APIs. One is like literally just pulling the data verbatim as you see it on the screen. The other is pulling it into the query. And so if you start to look at this, it'll actually generate that. And you don't, the net positive here is that you don't have to create any views. The vanilla integration just works as expected. So going a little bit long here, but hopefully that gives you some feedback on how this integration works. Michael, I'd like to hand it over to you to kind of talk about how this data lives in vanilla and then what you can do with it from there. So let me just unshare my screen and you can kind of pick it up from here.
Sounds great. Thanks, Blake. Okay, so now we're in vanilla and we're using the same client. So essentially, as Blake mentioned, we do use the query API to go get the account and asset liability data from Addepar. And what I've done as the advisor inside of this vanilla platform is I've integrated and gone out and said, I want to grab all of the accounts under the Smith family. So here we have Adam and Georgia Smith. And what you're seeing right now is really a fully onboarded client within the vanilla platform. So on this overview page, you can see that now, because we've integrated with Addepar, we have all of the financial data here within the system. So you can see the overview of that estate data here. We do sort of create our own customized, not asset classes, but high level structure for how the assets are broken down. We sort of take an account view. So here you see what's in taxable accounts, maybe retirement accounts and entities. But each of these widgets are customizable and iterative. So you can click into each of these. You can see the different assets and liabilities. The nice Addepar logo is here, which shows when that data was last synced. You can also break down all these assets by different owners. So if you wanted to see what just Adam Smith owned in his name, or if you wanted to blow that up and see all of the estate, or maybe just his individual trust. What we have here at Vanilla is a complete ownership hierarchy, so that all of these assets and liabilities are structured so that it makes sense for within the estate. Here we have a breakdown of the liquidity profile, and also we run up-to-date estimated estate tax liabilities. As I scroll down, we can also see that as part of making this a fully onboarded client, what we've also done is we've uploaded documents. So this is where Vanilla really shines. What we have is a team of experts behind the scenes. They're former practicing estate attorneys. And what an advisor does is actually upload this Smith family's documents. So they have trust, pour-over wills, powers of attorney, healthcare directives. They've uploaded them into the Vanilla system. We've read through all of those documents. We understand the provisions and the dispositive provisions within those documents, and can better put together an outlay of what the estate flow will actually look like. And all that data is now rested here within the estate plan section. So the estate plan will show the the simulation of how assets will actually flow from one generation to the next. This is from an entity view where you can see all of the trusts today. And then as we simulate the death of one spouse in generation one and then the second, you can actually see and you can describe to the clients how assets will flow down to the ultimate beneficiaries, in this case, the children in the estate. What's really great about the integration and why this is so impactful is that each of these nodes can be clicked into and discovered in more detail. So as I look into Adam Smith's individual trust, because we've powered into Addepar's balance sheet, we can see exactly what's inside of this individual trust, broken down to an account view, and also the specific assets and liabilities underneath that account as well. We can also see that Adam's individual trust has ownership in different entities, and we can of course expand those entities to see the specific details underneath those as well. So I think this really does show the importance of what we're doing. It's this marriage between the financial data and then the estate planning data, and it results in a really interactive platform here at Vanilla that allows you to just glean more insight to your clients. Of course, we'll run, estate taxes as well. So we'll run all of this through a simulation. We take into effect, the anticipated federal exemption sunset in 2026. We also have the ability to then project this out into the future. So if I say, okay, the estate's life expectancy is not now, but in 2041, we can actually project that estate into the future. We can edit assumptions to change the life expectancy and the assumed growth rate for this projection. But again, the idea here is that we're opening up the transparency of this plan by including the financials, by reading the documents for the advisors, and giving them a platform that allows them to analyze in much greater detail and provide better insights to clients. So there's a lot more to the Vanilla platform, but this just highlights, I think, some of the important aspects of the integration and how that's then utilized within our platform. And what we'll do is sort of stop here and go back to the slide deck and see if there's any questions. And of course, we have some call to actions in case any of you want to explore both Addepar and Vanilla in more detail.
Yeah, Michael, I just wanted to say and remind folks on the line, right? Because of the way that your engineering team set up the integration, you don't have to create any views in Addepar. And there's no API key and secret. Really, it's just like logging in with your Addepar credentials to Vanilla, which would then permission you to see every single client you have the ability of, right? So within Addepar, there are various permissions. If I'm an advisor and I have 100 clients, when I go to Vanilla and click authenticate with Addepar, those 100 clients that I have permission or access are automatically there. So no fat fingering, no Excel, nothing. It's just really log in, kind of like you log in with Google to different applications. I just want to commend your engineering team for building to the most updated, APIs that Addepar has. Really reducing friction, no need to create a view, no need to maintain that. All you got to do is log in and the data is there and it works, which, once again, back to spending time and scaling a business. I think that's really the key to this partnership, is being able to save time and service clients better, especially amidst some of these rule changes that might be coming up.
Yeah, really good point. Yeah, exactly right, Blake. Thank you.
Great. So let's start with some questions. Blake, starting with you, what is the cost associated to using the Addepar integration?
So that's a good question. The Adapar integration with Vanilla is completely free. So the Adapar partner ecosystem seeks to, create partnerships to reduce friction, and as a result of that, there's no toll to do that. So if you're using Adapar and you're like to, use Vanilla, obviously you'd need to be contracted with Vanilla. I'm not sure if your firm offers trials or how that works, but you have no toll, right? If you're an Adapar client looking to connect to Vanilla, you have a subscription with Adapar, you have a subscription with Vanilla, and you're ready to roll.
Great. Michael, how do we keep client information totally confidential? Does Vanilla have access to clients' actual investments?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's an important one. So, much like many SaaS companies out there, we have some pretty rigorous security and compliance standards that we meet. The only time Vanilla would have access to, a Vanilla employee would have access to someone's organization is if we're supporting a ticket that's been dropped. But there is no access that employees have to data. I was using a fictional demo environment today. We are SOC 2 type 2 compliant, and so we've taken some of the strongest measures in the industry to make sure that this data is confidential. We do a number of more technical things on the back end, such as encrypting our data at rest. So, and I guess any more questions, happy to take them offline, but we have met most of the most rigorous security checklists out there. And also we lock down the system so our employees can access it unless they absolutely need to help you resolve issues.
Thanks, Michael. Another one for you. If there are assets not listed on Addepar, for example, personal real estate or jewelry, can you manually input that data into the Vanilla system?
Yes, definitely. So there is like a balance sheet functionality, which I didn't show today, but can definitely go into more detail. What we do is we integrate what we can, what you want us to integrate to Addepar with, and then you can also supplement that with updating and uploading manually. So we have a widget that says, add asset, add liability, and you can describe, what asset class that asset is, the market value, when it was last valued, things of that nature. So yes, you can do both, and they'll both bleed into the same within the vanilla system.
Yeah, you can also track that data natively in Addepar if you wish. So Anthony, I'm not sure if you're using Addepar already, but many of our clients do put their personal, real assets in the application, which then could flow over automatically. But if you'd like for them to live in vanilla, not Addepar for some reason, to Michael's point, you could do that also. So there's some optionality there.
Mhm.
I know we're a little bit over time, so maybe just a couple more for both Michael and Blake.
Sure.
What are you both most excited about in regards to future iterations of the product? Maybe Michael, we start with you and then go to Blake.
Yeah, great. I think it's a good question. I mean, look, we're really this is the tip of the iceberg in terms of the integration. I think what I'm excited about is, we do a lot with ownership hierarchy here at Vanilla. It's really important that we know which owners own each asset. That allows us to run really accurate estate analysis and waterfall assumptions. One thing that I'd love to be able to do is actually tap into some of the ownership stuff that Adapar is doing, and we are working on prioritizing that. So that's what I'm really excited for, being able to just get more in-depth, clear data. That, of course, is going to, in turn, just power the success within the integration. So Blake, I don't know if you want to piggyback off of that, but that's one thing that I'm excited for coming up.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a huge unlock. I mean, the other thing maybe just to mention is that Adapar is in an exploration stage of third-party widgets. So think about, you log into a client portal or within a report, the ability to dynamically snap visualizations powered by other third parties like Vanilla to look at that estate waterfall or visualization back within the Adapar app. So team's working really hard on that. It's going to be coming faster than expected, and so super excited to sit with your R&D team and understand, how we can snap these vanilla widgets back within the Adapar experience for that really consolidated view and ease of use. So really excited about that.
Yeah,
Great.
really.
Finish it up. So Blake, just why are you excited to be partnering with Vanilla?
I think from a categorical perspective, there's tons of financial planning tools in the market, and they do a great job of helping folks retire, have, cash flow based or goals based planning. Estate planning is a completely different animal. I really looked around the industry, and Adapar pursues a categorical strategy. Within the estate planning category, we think Vanilla has a lead, and it's a category we think is going to grow significantly. And so this is one a lot of our clients have asked about. There's just not that many providers in the market very centrally focused on this. And so when we think about partnerships, we like to pursue relationships with best of breed vendors that have a very defined purpose. And we think, Vanilla is in a great place to be executing there. Thus the partnership has emerged, given the mutual client overlap in the family office segment. So lots more to come, but we think the time is now, and there's a lot of opportunity ahead for advisors to save time and ultimately differentiate the service and close that gap. That 71% gap is super interesting, Michael. And I think more advisors would do it if they could do it within a reasonable amount of time, and it doesn't distract them from growing their practice, right? So I think that's really the nexus of this relationship, is saving time and allowing advisors to differentiate themselves.
Great. Thank you, Blake. Thanks, Michael. Michael, why don't you wrap it up for us?
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, thank you everyone for joining. We really appreciate you taking the time. Just a few things that we'll follow up on as well. But Vanilla had sort of a go-to-market, launch event last week called Legacy Now, where we kind of brought to market a lot of these ideas that we've been thinking through and building off of for the first time. So we have a link here so you can go and check out that recording if you're interested. Also, Blake mentioned it, but Vanilla is highlighted on Addepar's Integration Center. We have a link to that page there where you can find a lot more information, screenshots of the integration, and also the ability to click on links to get directly in touch with the Vanilla team. And then also, if you have more questions, we'd love to talk with you, demo more, and explain kind of what we're doing, what Addepar is doing in the space. We have the sort of contact sales team email boxes listed here, so that you can get in touch with us if need be. But once again, thank you so much for joining, and we're looking forward to talking to you soon.
Well, thanks for having me on, Michael. I certainly appreciate it. We're really excited about this. If you're an existing client and you want us to continue to iterate or build, or if you have an idea, reach out. We're certainly open to it, and we appreciate everyone's time today.
Thanks, Blake, for joining. Appreciate it.